You're watching Fugitive Red-Eye, and welcome to another movie review. Today I'll be reviewing the Cutie Honey live-action movie. Now, as I mentioned in my review of Cutie Honey, Cutie Honey is actually a retelling of the movie's plot with a few differences, added on things, expanded upon things, as well as nudity, and it's obviously animated, whereas the movie itself is live-action. One thing, however, that I was not aware of is that the movie actually contains the same intro as Cutie Honey, so the Cutie Honey intro was actually originally in the movie before Cutie Honey was made. There are also a couple of brief animated sequences in the movie that are in the same style as Cutie Honey, which I found very interesting. So since the movie follows essentially the same plot, there's not really a whole lot I have to go over that I haven't already, but for simplicity's sake, I'll give a very brief rundown. However, I will avoid spoilers for the most part, because I don't want to spoil this per se. As with any entry into this franchise, the Cutie Honey movie follows a girl named Honey Kisarage, who is an android created by Dr. Kisarage, who himself was killed by a secret organization known as Panther Claw, who vie for world domination. Honey herself has the ability to transform and use all these special abilities to fight Panther Claw and prevent them from taking over the world and get revenge for her father. And Honey herself has a device in her that Panther Claw is very interested in stealing, and Panther Claw is led by a girl named Sister Jill. Panther's aura, as with the Cutie Honey, does not actually exist in this version either. Sister Jill is the leader of Panther Claw completely in this one. On top of that, Sister Jill is played by a man in this. She's depicted to look like a decrepit old man who basically looks like an old man cosplaying as Sister Jill, plain and simple. I think it's supposed to be because she's decrepit and her energy is rapidly draining or something like that, but it's still a bit odd. The movie itself does include a dub on the DVD, but I of course watched the sub with the original Japanese language track. But if you're so inclined, there is an English dub. I'm not sure how it is because I chose not to watch it. I may watch it at a later day, and if it's something truly spectacular, maybe I'll do an update, but for now I've just seen the subtitle with the original Japanese dub. Other than that, obviously, like I said, there are a lot of similarities between this and Cutie Honey, since Cutie Honey is in turn based on this. Atsuko Aki is actually a cop in this one, who's originally going after Panther Claw and suspects Honey of stuff, and then eventually they team up, similar to how it happens in Cutie Honey. As far as technical aspects, there's a lot of overacting in this, which I find really charming, actually. It's obviously overdone. Even in the original Japanese, the characters put a lot more emotion and emphasis into things than they normally would in a live-action movie. Best way to explain it is that when you watch an anime, if you notice, the characters themselves always are really over-emotional and, way more energetic than you ever see in real life, and super exaggerated. Well, that also translates into this. All the characters act like they're anime characters, which I guess would make sense since technically they are, but it's pretty interesting to see in live action. The special effects in the movie itself are cheesy and stupid, but I really enjoyed them quite a bit because of it. They're very cartoony and over the top, and I think they kind of added to the charm of it. I honestly really liked it. Again, I think they were trying to make them seem like anime fight scenes, but in live action, and like I said, there were a couple of brief animated segments too. One key difference from this and some of the other entries in Cutie Honey is there is no nudity in the movie. I knew this going into it, and it's not the only entry in the franchise to not have nudity. The original 73 anime didn't have nudity, whereas the manga did. Obviously, also, Cutie Honey Flash did not have nudity, being more targeted towards a female audience. So this movie itself, it does have some, fan service to an extent, because it does have, it does have some bra and panties stuff, but no actual nudity. And nothing really graphic either. They don't really put a lot of emphasis on fan service. There's a little bit, like I said, but it's not a huge emphasis in the movie. Overall, I think the movie was very enjoyable with how cartoony and over the top is, and like I said, because I liked the plot to Cutie Honey, I did like it in this too. I really liked the story, and I think the characters were really well cast. I think Honey especially, really well cast, good choice of an actress for her. She fit the role really well, I think. I think it was definitely an interesting interpretation of the Cutie Honey franchise, and I think it's definitely a welcome one, so if you are a fan of Cutie Honey, I highly recommend checking out the movie, because I do feel it's one of the few anime movies that I've enjoyed quite a bit. It's definitely not as good as the anime itself, and in fact, if you just want to get this story and you don't want to see the live-action movie, then I'd still recommend watching Cutie Honey, because it's the same story, but arguably better done. But I do still think the movie does a good job and does the Cutie Honey franchise justice. And that being said, this has been Fugitive Red-Eye, and you have a great rest of the day.
Subscribe to Fugitive Red Eye.